Welcome back. You're watching Newsx. My name is Vineet. The National Stock Exchange, or the Bombay Stock Exchange, when it was formed in 1800s, has been a great success for the dealers of shares. The process today has become so smooth that shares are being purchased on mobile apps. Through the next 30 minutes, we are trying to ask this question: can there be a national exchange for cryptocurrency as well? How do we solve the problem of multiple unregulated exchanges that exist and bind them into one similar to the one on the Lal Street? We'll talk about this with our guest. Joining me on the program at this point in time is Sharat Chandra, blockchain and technology evangelist. Also joining us on the show is Professor Aman Agarwal, Director of Indian Institute of Finance and Senior Economist. Arun Vijay, co-founder and chief operating officer of Gyotas Cryptocurrency Exchange, is also here with us. And last but by no means the least, Mr. Vikram Mahar, crypto analyst and expert, is also joining us on the program. Professor Agarwal, let me start by asking you a very simple question. You know, the stock market has its own avenues of celebration today, but there's been a lot of hard work, a lot of timeline, a lot of decades of investment and regulation which has gone into that. Now, when we are looking down at having regulation for cryptocurrency as well, do you think from a futuristic point of view, a crypto exchange is going to be the order of the day? Professor Agarwal, if you can hear me, sir, please unmute yourself. Professor Agarwal, if you're there with us. Okay, perhaps there's a problem with his audio. We'll patch him in momentarily. Sharat Chandra, if you're here with us. Sharat Chandra?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, Mr. Chandra, your thoughts on the question I asked. It is about time that a crypto exchange is facilitated. Going by what the government intends to do in terms of regulation for cryptocurrency, it is only a matter of time that for people to take advantage of the ups and downs of cryptocurrency, there has to be a formal exchange in place.
Right. And I think before we even think about creating a formal exchange for all crypto transactions, what we can also look at, the SEBI is pushing for T+1 settlement, right? And that has received a significant amount of setback because we don't have the tech infrastructure ready. So let me give one example where just 6 days ago, a SIX exchange, which operates for Switzerland and Spain markets, they're using R3 Corda's blockchain technology for the entire life cycle of bonds, shares, derivatives, where they're looking at a T+0 settlement. So going forward, they will look at an instantaneous bond issuance and settlement. So yeah, definitely a crypto exchange backed by blockchain-based technologies is definitely the need of the hour. But we should also look at how we can transform our current exchanges, the stock exchanges, I would say, complying with SEBI's guidelines, and we can use blockchain technology for T+0 settlement. Right now, we are not there yet.
Okay, right now, we're not there yet. Arun Vijay, we are not in a lot of places when it comes to cryptocurrency, and that's why there is a regulation which is mandated by the government. The winter session is going to see that bill being passed. But it is the future of exchanges, it is the future of currency, it is the future of transaction. And if you in fact overlook and undermine the viability and the feasibility of cryptocurrency, and you do not plan in accordance with that, then India as a growing economy will have a lot to lose.
Absolutely, right. So this is, a year back or like 3 years back, the news would have been about is Bitcoin a scam, is it a gamble, right? Today we have progressed so much that we are talking about what future entails. Like the future is decentralization. Internet is changing from centralized entities like Facebook, Google controlling our data. We are coming with decentralized entities, right? Where the customer owns the data. When this is the future, we see a lot of exchanges. This is how things happen, right? First the technology comes, then the regulation comes. Even if we talk about Bombay Stock Exchange, it was a very informal group started by a few traders, right? SEBI was established in the last 40-50 years, right? Once they saw, okay, it needs regulation, and then government created rules. And today the exchanges are working fantastically in terms of investor protection, in terms of listing process. It's all very smooth. So we can expect a similar kind of licensing and processes that are created, because when it comes to crypto, there are a lot of other things also that needs to be managed. Terrorist financing, money laundering, you need transaction monitoring system for that. Right? KYC systems are already in place for all the brokerages. When you trade with Zerodha or any exchange, you do a KYC. That same system can be applied here. Right? So when we take the existing system and see what are the things that we can take as is and apply to the crypto exchanges, and what are the new things that are needed, like transaction monitoring, that will be applicable only to crypto exchanges, and together we can definitely regulate Indian exchanges.
Okay.
Can I add one point to Arun's statement?
Sure.
So custody of digital assets is also more important, and since cyber attacks and attacks on exchanges are becoming more commonplace, so in this particular case, custody of digital assets, whether you are looking at a self-hosted wallet or a custodial wallet, so that is one key aspect, because institutions will also gradually move into the space. So how will you take care of the funds? What are the cybersecurity measures you will apply? Whether you will insure those funds? There are other examples where crypto funds are being insured. Some of the exchanges are going that route. So custody of assets is going to be paramount.
Okay. Professor Agarwal, I hope you can hear me now.
Very well, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
All right. Your thoughts, sir, on the government formulating a plan for the regulation of cryptocurrency. Our topic for this half an hour is talking about an exchange being set up for cryptos. And Arun Vijay very rightly pointed out that the technology comes first and then the regulation follows, and that's exactly what's happening. But apart from the regulation, there also has to be an exchange, a transactional platform which allows people to deal, sell, buy, and do all kinds of things, with the property or the shares that they will accumulate. And that's exactly the model that needs to be, applied on cryptocurrency as well.
You see, there are two components to the cryptocurrency. One component is what the government is talking about in terms of regulating and creating a digital currency, and I think it's a welcome decision. We have been mooting this idea from 2013-14 onwards till 2017, after which Arun Jaitley actually talked about the fact that it is an illegal tender of mode in the budget document, after which the RBI created a concept paper and asked a committee to be created after a paper was published in Finance India in 2017. After which even the Commerce Ministry, as well as recently the Prime Minister has spoken about it, that it is a risky deal and the youth should not get into it. And now we have also seen, I've read, I don't know if that draft is available in public, but a draft report has been submitted by one of the cabinet ministers on particular issue of the cryptocurrency or digital currency to be created by the Reserve Bank of India. So the one component is this creation of the digital currency, which is being proposed, and you don't need to do mining and stuff like that for that purpose. You only need to change the mode of payment, like we have seen from Stone Age to gold to leather, and we have seen paper currency. Now it's going to be a digital currency, which is going to be there, and the regulator can account for it in terms of money supply, and that's where we talk about M5 as a money supply measure as against M3, which is being done now. Now that is one part of it. The second part of it, and that is very clear, so it is illegal, it is not a tenable asset, it is not a mode of currency mode, so that is functionally very clear, and I think large number of government agencies have said it time and again, and no less than Finance Minister and the Prime Minister talking about it, including the RBI talking about it. The other component is the trading part. After it was being banned and restricted, and even RBI giving the notification to banks not to go about indulging in it, some of these crypto traders went to the court, and if I remember correctly, the High Court or the Supreme Court gave order in their favor that it should be allowed to be traded. That is on the exchange which you were talking about in the second part.
Correct.
So when it's a question of trading, then it is seen as a commodity. It is not being seen as a currency. It is like a commodity like coal, silver, or metal, or any other commodity. And if it is a commodity, then they allowed the trading aspect of it. Only trading was allowed in India, nothing else was allowed, and it was completely barred from everything else. That is not clear since the bill is being proposed and the draft document is still not here, whether the exchanges will be allowed, which have been set up in terms of trading the currency, not floating the currency, not using it as a medium of exchange, not as a fiat currency, but only as a medium of commodity which is traded like equity or debt instruments, or as a matter of fact, silver, gold, or any other commodity which is traded. Now, so far, till the bill comes out and becomes an act, they are legal exchanges which they can go about trading them. that is the status as of today. But tomorrow, what will be the status will be clear once the bill document is there. I am agreeing with my counterpart here that there is a developmental process of an exchange setup, which is there, and large number of components are there. But please understand, the basic underlying structure of a currency, which it calls itself a cryptocurrency, is flawed. It is not a tenable asset. Today, whether it is Bitcoin or any other currency, you do not know where it is being produced, who is holding it, who is not holding it, where it is being exchanged, who will regulate it, who will control it. You know, people have been asking, does it have an impact on the economy? How do you calibrate?
But Professor Agarwal, isn't that where blockchain technology comes in?
No. Blockchain is only a technology. Like, you're using these platforms like computers. So you have Windows, you have DOS. These are technologies. These are platforms which are there. Blockchain is a technology which I think an advanced level with RBI will also use. It only locks in. It's a framework of movement of transactions. It has nothing to do with the currency as a matter of fact. You see an asset, when you say a currency, a rupee or a dollar, the whole nation assets are actually backing that particular dollar, whether it is publicly held or privately held. Like in Greece, when the Greece debacle was taking place 5-6 years back, the Greece could not print euro. They were part of the eurozone. They could not print euro, and as a result, they had only option was to go about selling their national assets and then even going to private assets if they have to stabilize the whole structure. They could not print the currency. The currency has a structure. It's a value of money. It's a value of vault, and it has to be authorized by someone. It has to be a regulator who authorizes it. There is no structure. There is no parent body. There is no holder of this particular currency which are being floated as bitcoins or any others, and as a result, it defies the basic definition of what we called an asset. And since it defies that, and then it cannot be formed as a currency, and that's where they cannot form a structure as a currency. As I said, exchange today, exchanges will continue till this bill comes out. Once we know the bill, only then we know the fate of the exchanges as well.
Okay, so Vikram Mahar, it's not only about the regulation of cryptocurrency. It's also about sorting out all of these complications, sorting out how and when to in fact make cryptocurrencies a part of a regular day-to-day transactional summary.
Well, for the government of India, it's important to handle this properly as like the current development is going on. So it seems like the government seems positive to take the right decision. What is the right they have to choose? Banning is not a solution. So right now, the government is one to choose such a safe way that user can be safe with any asset. Like they may be planned to implement the CBDC concept. So that will be a very interesting thing for the government angle. But why the people will invest in the CBDC when it is a stable coin? That this is a question rise if the normal trader is coming here. If the honest investment is there, anybody is want to transfer the money, that will be continued. That's not an issue, as like UPI and Paytm, all those things are going. So right now, the government is one that people leave this crypto sphere, or investors leave these private coins. Actually, this is a new terminology which is used by the government of India. There is nothing like private or public or governmental things in the decentralized. So yeah. These kind of the things that happen in this.
I would just like to intervene here.
Sure. Go ahead.
A digital currency is not an asset. It is not a tradable commodity. It is like your rupee which you're holding. The only thing is, as of today, when we use digital payment gateways or making digital payment, if I have to make some payment to you or someone has to make a payment to a panwala or a sabzi wala, he has to use a payment gateway. When I make a payment of 100 rupees to someone or 500 rupees or 10,000 rupees in cash,
Absolutely.
I do not use a gateway. If I do a check, then it is only a bank, but there is no other gateway. This is where digital currency is, that it gets transferred from me to you, and that technology is already being tested, and it is already, PM has launched part of it recently only. So please understand, it is not a tradable commodity. That's what I'm trying to say. People
Understood.
are seeing it as an investment tradable commodity. It is not a tradable commodity. It is not like you hold US dollars. People hold US dollars not from investment purpose, because they know that the rupee will devalue or local currency will devalue, so I will encash it later on. Or I need it for travel or business, or I do not need to buy it from black market. That's why people hold dollars, but they don't hold it from the investment perspective. Please understand, it is not a currency, and that is where the flaw is with these crypto products, which are, and I refer to them as crypto products, not as cryptocurrencies. In fact, in all my writings.
Okay, all right. Understood. And Sharath, you want to come in on that? Obviously, it is not a tradable commodity. So the challenges are, at large for the government when it comes to regulation. And, one thing that comes out of our conversation, in this particular show is that, the knowledge about cryptocurrency needs to be a lot more aggressive than the trade itself.
Right. And I would like to compliment Professor Agarwal's statement by saying that we need to use the right terminology. So let's use crypto tokens rather than currency, because if you're using currency, then you are digressing from the main topic, right?
Of course.
So crypto is not a legal tender, so let's not even use the word currency for that matter. So ideally, it should be crypto tokens, and classify those tokens depending upon the use cases they intend to serve or their utility. For example, stable coins. So stable coins are fairly stable. They are pegged 1-to-1 against a fiat currency. So USDC is one example where Visa is using USDC for settlement on its network. So there's a valid use case, and especially for cross-border payments where you have a lot of processes, and again, it's not efficient, it's not affordable as well, right? If you're remitting money from one place to another or one geography to another, you end up incurring more in transaction costs. So stable coins have a valid and great use case. CBDCs are still a couple of years away. So whenever CBDCs come into picture, and whenever there's a global exchange of CBDCs across geographies, then obviously this problem of cross-border transaction and cross-border high cost associated with it can come down. But as of now, there's a right case for using stable coins. Visa has already shown the way, and it also depends upon government. If they're making exceptions, they should also look at stable coins. And one example can we authorize our payment banks to hold an escrow account with some reserves and then issue stable coins backed for faster payments and settlements?
Absolutely. Well, this is obviously one of the more salient points of cryptocurrency that we have discussed so far. Vikram Mahar?
I want to add.
Go ahead. Arun, go ahead.
Yeah, so I agree with the panelists when they say that cryptocurrency is a misnomer, because it was just named as cryptocurrency, and because of that we are having so much confusion. So it is better to have named it as crypto tokens. But one thing we are forgetting, right? When we created internet is a decentralized body. You look at Wikipedia, it's again decentralized. Just because, so when Wikipedia started, right, people said it's like a public toilet. You don't know who used it before, who is going to use it after, and who is going to maintain it. But we know how Wikipedia works, right, and how Linux works. When open source systems came, Microsoft had a similar problem. They said, how will you trust a software where there's no company that owns the software? So when the new technology comes, we cannot try to fit it in the existing buckets. If you want to define internet in the 1980s, you cannot fit in any existing bucket. That's why new regulation, new laws comes into picture. Right?
Sure.
So if we try to fit cryptocurrency into things that we already know, right, why do we need new inventions? So that is where I differ from Professor Sir when he tries to fit it within the existing system, right? So we have to see it with new eyes, with what is possible. Cryptocurrencies make possibility of transactions without middleman. Right? Why should my data pass through Facebook? Right? Why should my data pass through Google's servers? Why can't I have a peer-to-peer transaction? That is what cryptocurrencies enable, right? And that is a great innovation, right? So I think that is the future. Internet is getting rebuilt into decentralized internet, where you will not have centralized entities owning all our data. So what happens is, this data, the value of Google is what? $1 trillion. Value of Amazon is $1 trillion. Value of Facebook is close to $1 trillion.
Sure.
This value is getting distributed in forms of tokens, and customers own it, right? And they are able to operate the platforms. Ethereum is a self-sustainable platform. From 2017, it's been operating by itself. Bitcoin from 2009, it's been operating by itself, right? So people are challenging, how can this run? And it has been running successfully for 10 years, and that is the proof is in the pudding.
The proof is in the pudding, and obviously, this is basically, Vikram Mahar, a part of, the regulation or the challenges that the government will have to face when it comes to the regulation of cryptocurrency, a topic, an agenda, which is in fact so hot these days, specifically on social media.
Yeah. this is a very hot matter at this time. If you talk about the cryptocurrency, there are a lot of benefits associated with this new technology, but some kind of the risk are also associated with the cryptocurrency. The first thing that we can get lost anytime without any expectation. We can get lost because of the market correction and the volatility. Second thing, we have to understand the cryptocurrency in a proper way. As like Arjun said, that we are comparing with something else, like some people compare with the gold, some people compare with the Google or like that. It's a kind of a different scenario. The cryptocurrency have its own mechanism and own system by which we can get something better. But apart of that, there is a second number risk is that we are not associated with any third party. So that could be the problem. Like if we lose any payment due to hack or due to phishing, we cannot say to anyone, any senior hierarchy, that to return that money back. So
Okay.
that could be a major risk, because it's based on the trust. If the trust is lost, then the system is broken. Seems like
Understood.
that. It's not-
Understood.
yeah.
All right. Well, absolutely. The need for the exchange is self-evident, and the fact that the government is working very hard, or rather has already worked very hard in drafting the bill, which is going to be presented in the Parliament in just a few days, is perhaps proof that they are taking this matter immensely seriously. And a crypto exchange is perhaps something which is going to be the future of cryptocurrencies, as long as they fall into the purview of all the regulations that the government mandates. Thank you, gentlemen, for being a part of this wonderful show.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.